Hey Squishies, back again with another vlog. This is Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Season 2, Episode 13. Page Turner and Naysaya. Now, who do I have things to say about this one? But first, Page Turner. Basically a Glossaric episode. I was expecting it to be more of a Star episode. That we would follow her after Glossaric left, but instead we followed Glossaric, and I kind of like that we did. We got a couple of things. One is that Glossaric is scary powerful. Two, we got to see Baphomet in a Disney cartoon. Which, of course, they made him a joke because goats are a thing with the Gravity Falls staff. Which Starverse is another show that that shares people with Gravity Falls. I say inherit, but I'm not sure actually if Gravity Falls had ended yet when this episode came on. But either way, I know there are shared staff between them, and that's clearly coming through in the Baphomet. The treatment of Baphomet as a joke goat. I mean, they never say it's Baphomet, but it's a goat-headed, bat-winged creature that is part of the, Council of Magic. It's Baphomet. But Glossaric is scary powerful, and has been the mentor to all the Queens of Muni, apparently, and tailors his style of mentorship to each one, which makes a lot of sense. Clearly with Star, he's going for the trickster mentor thing, which makes sense as a way to keep Star engaged, because that would be the biggest problem with teaching Star, is keeping her attention. I like that Star was basically unaffected by reading the chapter of Pure Evil. Interesting that it's referred to as one of the previous Queen's chapters. The chapter of one of the previous Queens, suggesting that each Queen has added to the book. That it's the accumulated knowledge of the past Queens of Muni, the accumulated magic. Which again makes sense with Glossaric as its caretaker, as he is apparently the mentor to all of them. And I like his little yes when Star is unaffected by it. Like, he expected that to happen, but he wasn't certain. And it's vindication for him. His teaching is going well. He has prepared Star to face evil. And to face temptation of power, and to go, Marco, not so lucky. And that's kind of where that episode ends, and the next one picks up. And I actually thought at first that the next episode was a continuation. What I thought was going on in the next episode was that, possibly woken by the dark powers in the previous episode, or possibly just as its own standalone thing, Marco's tentacle from that one episode in the first season was back. And that was what was talking about Marco in the third person and revealing his secrets, was this, evil that has been dwelling inside him for all this time. But instead it was this curse from Tom that would shout out his most embarrassing secrets whenever he tried to ask Jackie out. And I got some feelings about some of the secrets revealed. I've talked in these vlogs before. I'm aware of the fan theory that Marco is a closeted trans girl. And I'm increasingly starting to suspect that there's truth to it. Certainly, it is becoming how I read Marco on an ongoing basis. The bit about several of the secrets revealed felt to me very telling and familiar. I never wore ballet shoes around the house. I never really did anything overtly feminine like that. In secret before fairly recently, because I didn't understand until really quite recently that what I was feeling was dysphoria and that I was a trans woman. As recently as, you can go back in my vlogs to not that long ago when I covered Dirty Pair Episode 8, which has a really well done, very positive depiction of a trans woman, and I was gushing about it. I was ecstatic about it, and even at that point I had no idea. At least not consciously. It's really very recent. And I started coming out almost immediately. So I didn't have that much of a phase of being closeted, with one exception, which is at work. I was closeted at work until this month. And part of how I coped with it was what I called stealth girling. I would do things like wear a necklace under my shirt, or paint my toenails, or other little things that were expressions of femininity. Not because they made me a girl, but because they were a way of saying I'm a girl in a language that only I could understand, in a frequency that only I could hear. And I needed to say that. But I wasn't yet ready to be heard saying it. And I feel like that's what wearing ballet slippers might be for Marco. Of course, the big one is being so ashamed of his body that he can't look at it in the mirror. I avoided mirrors for over 30 years. I, learned to shave by touch. Because I just didn't like them. And I couldn't explain to you why I didn't like them. I just didn't like them. I didn't like seeing myself. And then, and again, that's readable as teenage boy awkwardness. But at this point, I don't think it is. Between all the Princess Marco stuff and all the other little hints and signs, I really feel like regardless of where the show goes right now, this is the most satisfying and most interesting way to read Marco. For example, practicing asking Jackie out in the mirror and kissing the reflection. Not something I ever did. But Marco is looking in the mirror and imagining he sees Jackie looking back at him. I'm going to keep using him because Marco is still using him in the show. You don't get to decide someone's pronouns for them. I know he's a fictional character, but until the writers write something that does differently, I'm going to continue using the pronouns that Marco appears to be comfortable being used for him, even though I'm reading him as a trans girl. But the whole thing with the mirror, the practicing, the looking in the mirror, again, readable as just an awkward teenage boy, but looking at it through the lens of Marco being a trans girl who is attracted to other girls, which is me. I'm a trans lesbian. I know that feeling of confusion. Do I want to fuck her or be her? Sometimes you know it's one, sometimes you know it's the other, sometimes you know it's both, and sometimes it's confusing. Especially early on, and I have to imagine especially when your sexuality is just in the process of forming, as it is for somebody as young as Marco. And I think that may well be how he feels about Jackie. He doesn't know if these feelings he has towards her, being drawn to her, wanting to spend time with her, is he interested in her sexually, or does he want to be like her? And that's a very confusing place to be in, a very confusing feeling. But it's part of the package, I guess. Because I've talked to other trans women who are attracted to women, and they've talked about similar confusions. So yeah, the episode gave me some feelings. It was honestly a little difficult to watch because the idea of someone shouting out these secrets for me before I had the chance to express them myself and how I want to express them, that's horrifying. Marco, as a trans girl, Marco already has so little opportunity to express his own identity in his own terms. And to have even that inner secret self, to have pieces of that revealed by someone else, control even of that expression taken away from him, is awful. And it forces him into a position where if he wants to retain any control of that, he has to do it himself right then, right there. It is a cruel curse, what the Naysaya does. I think crueler than the writers may realize. Yeah. I guess that's about it. I'll see you all next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon for early access to vlogs, gaming videos, essays, and more. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.